Today we are diving into a single story, but one that's told in two completely different languages. First, there's the language of physics, and then there's the language of the prophets. It's a story about the journey of a single beam of light and, believe it or not, the journey of a man from an ancient sacred text.
So what on earth does a beam of light have in common with an ancient prophet? I know, it sounds like a real stretch, right? How could the cold, hard science of a photon possibly connect to the life of the prophet Yusuf, or Joseph as you might know him? Well, as we're about to see, the parallels are, well, they're shockingly precise. And to really get it, we just need to learn how to look at the world in a slightly different way.
So, we're going to tackle this whole thing by using three different lenses. Let's call them the three eyes. Think of it like putting on three different pairs of glasses to see the exact same reality, but in totally new and fascinating dimensions.
Okay, first up, you've got the eye of science. This is the part of us that loves to measure, calculate, and figure out the how of everything. You know, the formulas, the angles, the raw data. Then there's the eye of the heart. This is the part of you that feels awe. It sees a rainbow and isn't just satisfied with the physics of it, it's genuinely moved by its beauty and starts asking why it feels so profound. And finally, you have the eye of reason. This eye takes in everything, all the data from science, all the feeling from the heart, puts it all together and asks the really big question. Does this incredibly intricate, beautiful system really look like some kind of random accident?
All right, every great story has a beginning, right? And in our case, we've actually got two. One is happening in the fiery heart of a star, and the other is taking place in the mind of a young boy. And both of them start as this single, compressed point of unbelievable potential.
The story of Yusuf kicks off with a dream, and this one single vision, it contains his entire future. His brothers, his parents, his eventual rise to power, all of it is compressed into one powerful symbolic image. It's kind of like a beam of pure white light. It holds every single color inside of it, but they just haven't been revealed. Yet.
Now, at the very same time, deep in the core of our sun, our photon is born. Imagine two hydrogen atoms getting crushed together by this immense pressure and heat. A tiny fraction of their mass just vanished, and it's converted into pure energy, all thanks to Einstein's famous equation. That burst of energy is our photon, a single point of light born from an incredibly powerful union.
Okay, now this is where the scale of this journey just becomes absolutely mind-boggling. Our photon is born, but it doesn't just shoot right out. The sun's core is so unbelievably dense that this single particle of light spends, get this, an average of 100,000 years just bouncing around inside trying to get out. A 100,000-year struggle, all followed by a quick 8-minute sprint to get to Earth. Incredible!
So, both of our main characters, the photon and the prophet, are now on their way. But their first big test involves a sudden, sharp change of environment. It's a breaking point, but it's not an end. It's actually a necessary new beginning.
For Yusuf, this is the moment of ultimate betrayal. His own brothers turn on him and throw him into a well. His entire world is just turned upside down. One minute, he's the favored son, and the next, he's completely alone in the dark. It is a sudden, violent break from the path he was on. And for our photon, the exact same kind of thing happens the moment it hits a raindrop. After traveling freely through space and air, it suddenly slams into a much denser medium, water. This is called refraction. The light is literally forced to slow down and bend, changing its path. But here's the critical point. It loses none of its energy. It's just redirected. And this is the very first step in unlocking all those colors that were hidden inside. After being cast down, both Yusuf and our photon enter a period of confinement, a time of being trapped where any escape seems totally impossible. But you know, this confinement isn't about loss, it's all about transformation.
Yusuf is sold into slavery, and as if that's not enough, he eventually ends up in prison. It's like another, well, just a deeper, darker confinement. But in that darkness, his character doesn't fade, it actually solidifies. He grows in wisdom, in faith. In the exact same way, our photon, now inside this droplet, travels to the back surface. It hits the boundary between water and air at such a perfect, precise angle that it just can't escape. It's trapped. It's forced to reflect, turning back inward on itself.
And this isn't just any old reflection. It's a specific phenomenon in physics called total internal reflection. And it is, and you have to appreciate this, 100% efficient. Not a single particle of light is lost. Just think about that from an engineering perspective for a second.
Our very best, most advanced man-made mirrors still lose around 4 to 8% of the light that hits them. But this natural process hits absolutely perfect, no loss, just a change in direction, getting the light ready for its final act.
And now, we finally arrive at the climax, the moment of emergence. Both the photon and the prophet have endured their trials, the fall, the confinement, and they're now ready to reveal the incredible potential they held within them all along.
So after reflecting off the back of the droplet, our light travels back to the front surface to exit, and right here it refracts a second time, bending again as it re-enters the air. This is where the magic happens. It turns out that each color, each unique wavelength of light, bends at a slightly different angle. Red light exits at 42.3 degrees, while violet leaves at 40.4. That tiny difference is all it takes to spread that single beam of white light into the magnificent, perfectly ordered spectrum that we all know as the rainbow.
And in perfect parallel, Yusuf is summoned from the dungeon to interpret the king's dream. No one else can figure it out. In that one moment, all the wisdom he cultivated in his confinement finally emerges. He doesn't just explain the dream, he gives them a brilliant engineering plan to save the entire nation from famine. His hidden light, his true colors, are finally visible for the whole world to see.
Okay, so let's put on our final pair of glasses, the eye of reason, and just look at this system as a whole. We have this beautiful parallel story, this intricate physical process. I mean, is all of this just a happy accident?
You know, any engineer would immediately see a system here. The inputs are simple: sunlight and water droplets. The process is this precise 3-step sequence: bend, reflect, bend again. And the output? A stunning rainbow, perfectly arranged and even optimized for the sensitivity of the human eye. Now, whenever an engineer sees a highly optimized process, the first question is always the same: who's the designer?
And that question gets even more compelling when you start looking at the numbers. Physicists have actually calculated the odds of our universe's fundamental constants, things like the strength of gravity, being just right for life to exist, just by pure chance. Well, one famous estimate puts those odds at 1 in 10 to the power of 129. That number is so huge, it's statistically indistinguishable from zero. It's basically impossible.
And the evidence doesn't stop there. Consider this what some people call the triple coincidence. The sun just happens to emit most of its energy in a very narrow sliver of the spectrum, which we call visible light. Okay, well, our atmosphere just happens to have a window of transparency for those exact same wavelengths. And the human eye, in what should be a totally separate process, just happens to be most sensitive to, you guessed it, that exact same sliver of light. 3 independent systems, all perfectly aligned. Is that a coincidence? This remarkable alignment is what led brilliant physicists like Freeman Dyson to say things like this. And that's not a religious statement. It's a conclusion he drew from observing a universe that appears to be exquisitely fine-tuned for us to be here, observing it in the first place.
So what's the big takeaway from all of this? Well, we have these 2 stories, one from physics, one from scripture, that seem to be written with the exact same grammar. The underlying rule is this: a journey through trial, confinement, and darkness isn't a failure. It is the necessary process for a hidden potential to finally be revealed in its full, beautiful glory.
Perhaps stories like these are woven into the very fabric of the universe itself. As this verse from the Quran suggests, maybe the book of creation contains a depth of meaning so vast that if all the oceans in the world were turned to ink, you still couldn't write it all down. The story of the rainbow might just be one beautiful word on one beautiful page.
And that leaves us with one final question to just sit with. If the physical laws that create a rainbow and the moral laws that shape a prophet tell the exact same story, a story of trial and beautiful emergence, then what does that tell us about the author? If the universe really is a text, what is its signature?